So I'm going to tell you a few things about the DWS 780. This is the newest 12-inch slide saw from DeWalt. As you can see, the base is a little bit smaller than you might see on some of their other saws. You're missing a little bit of stock support in here. The benefit is it makes it lighter, and you really don't notice that too much, having that missing surface there. This saw is about the same weight as my Makita 10-inch and has quite a bit more capacity than that one. Another thing you'll notice is that the base sits really tight down to this table that it's mounted on, and the benefit to that is you have less sawdust and chips getting stuck in there, and it's easier to keep the workspace clean, and it's just nice to have that lower profile and not a bunch of junk underneath the saw. You have a really clear bevel scale and several bevel stops in the back. Easy adjustment for 90 degrees, and the lock is in the rear, but it's pretty big and easy to grab. This is I think the standard knob that is on all the DeWalt saws, at least the ones that I've used. The miter scale is also very readable, and you can adjust it side to side if you need to square up the saw, and the detents adjust with the scale. There's a detent override right here if you need to cut just off a standard detent and you don't want it falling in. That makes it so you can just swing the saw smoothly around to whatever angle you want. Put that back and the saw will click back to the detents. One thing I like about the DeWalts is the tall fences. At least on one side, my Makita saw only has a fence about this high, and that can be problematic for certain cuts. The fences are nice and solid. They're not super smooth sliding out of the way, but it's not a big deal, and they're very square to the base. This saw does not have a soft start, but it's quieter than my older 12-inch chop and doesn't have a large jump when you pull the trigger. You can see there's a little kick there, but not too much. You probably noticed the light on this saw, and it serves two purposes. First, it illuminates the cutting area, and secondly, because it projects from both sides of the blade, it creates a shadow. When you bring the blade teeth down close to the workpiece, you have a crisp line that shows you where your cut's going to be. You actually cut just slightly wide of it, but it's really handy for reference, especially if you don't have a lot of good lighting where you're working. The light may just be the best feature about this saw. Now for the bad news. The slide on this saw is awful. It's just not very smooth at all, and you really have to fight it, especially on steep bevel cuts. I'm not sure why that is. It seems like possibly just an engineering oversight, possibly making these bars too small or skimping on the housing and the guides. There's an adjustment screw, which is a small Allen screw right here behind the slide lock knob, and theoretically that allows you to change how tight or loose the slide is, but the adjustment is really not fine enough to really make a meaningful difference. There's just a very small turn between sloppy and totally locked down, so it's not that useful. You'll notice they have a rubber boot here behind the blade that acts as a dust collector. It obviously doesn't get all of it, but it's worth hooking up a vacuum to this saw if you can. it definitely makes a noticeable difference in how much dust you leave around. I really like the tall fences. They're very square to the base. Your miter scale is very readable, as is your bevel scale. The weight is good. The light is awesome. I really wish the slide was better and there wasn't so much flex in the head when it's extended. All around, it's still a very versatile saw for general trim work. If I had to pick one saw to keep in my van most of the time, this would probably be it right now. The downside is making cuts, shaving off the end of a board, making long cuts that use the whole slide capacity that need to be accurate. I'll still be going back to my 10-inch Makita for those.